friend once said to me, "I'm surprised you're not a serial killer." It wasn't a joke, it was serious, and it also wasn't meant to hurt me. It was the truth. The psychosexually deranged and meshed relationship between me and my mother, that kind of relationship, shows up in the background of so many violent male criminals. Yes, it is Norman Bates and his mother. It is that family of psychological derangement, correct. Had things turned out a little bit different for me, a little bit differently, I might have hurt my mother. I might have shot up a school. I don't like that that's true, but it is true. I don't know why some people like me, others, don't become criminals when they have a home life like I did, and others do. Right now, we're watching the narrative attempt to be set about the 14-year-old kid who shot up a school in Georgia, killing 2 teachers and 2 students. Now, it's early days. We don't know very much about what's going on in this case yet. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But already the media is trying to give us a narrative that will allow us to take the easy way out, the one that lets us blame guns and alleged phobias. So take a look at this shot from the Daily Mail cover, not cover, but cover shot for the story. It says, revealed, Georgia school shooter Colt Gray was, quote, bullied for being gay. You know, it's not just the woke that fall for these easy narratives. Very few adults, left or right, want to face the truth about why kids go this wrong. But if you look into the home life of almost anyone, like this most recent example, you're going to find cluster B: neglect, abuse, drug use. You're going to find shitty or highly inadequate parents. Lefties don't want to hear that. Righties don't want to hear that. We live in a narcissistic era in which most parents are far less willing to take responsibility for how they rear their children than has really ever been the case before. And we fall for easy ideas. We've been falling for this idea for almost 30 years. Being mean to the gay kid is why he murdered people. That's it. In the can, done, send it out, print. We need to stop doing this, but of course we won't. We love this narrative because it allows us to avoid the actual problem, and the actual problem is the breakdown of the family and child abuse. In the 80s and the early 1990s, I was that bullied gay kid. By 12 years old, I had attempted suicide twice. And in those days, I would have told you that the reason for my major depression, my bouts of dissociation from reality, my strange behavior, was entirely because mean kids picked on me at school. And they did pick on me. But I told myself this story, that it was all about the kids at school, because I needed to believe that at least one parent, my mother, loved me, and that my home could be safe. So I inflated my wounds from my peers and discounted the really painful ones that were happening at home. And just before I was put into an institution at 13, it was kind of a glorified orphanage, and then I ended up in a group home for teen boy criminals, even though I was not a criminal. Before that, I was starting to behave very strangely in ways that I still don't understand today. One morning I walked into class. I think this was the end of 6th grade. I walked into class with bright red crayon all over my lips and all over the outside of my mouth, like clown lipstick. And I just sat down at the front of the class and in the front row of seats and stared at the blackboard. And my teacher, Miss Hogg, came over and squatted in front of my desk, and she said, "Is something bothering you? Why did you put that on your mouth, Josh? Is everything okay?" And I said, "I don't know." And that's all that I said. And I remember the incident, and I remember thinking and feeling absolutely nothing. I remember no emotion and no thought, just the words that we exchanged with each other. I also remember how genuinely kind and concerned she was for me, and if I knew where she was, I'd say thank you. But of course the other kids picked on me. I was acting insane. Why was I acting insane? Well, my life prior to that point looked like this. I had no father. He left before I was born. My mother married a man, my stepfather, turned out to be very violent, beat me, concussed me, beat my mother, raped my sister, and tried to murder our mother while all three of us children watched one night. And then, of course, my mother screamed, lied, hit us, dragged me out of bed at midnight to re-clean the kitchen if there were spots on the dishes. I mean, my very first memory of my mother at nearly 4 years old was being slapped across the face and being called dirty. All of this was far more consequential in making me mentally unstable than was the bullying at school. It didn't help, but it didn't do everything. At school, at least, I had some friends, and most of my teachers were very good to me, much better than my own parents were. If you look into the background of school shooters, serial killers, spree killers, similar types, you almost always find a depraved and unbearable home life. Let's take a look at this most recent school shooter, Colt Gray in Georgia. Here are the basic facts, as I understand them right now. By the time you watch this, we may know much more. 14-year-old Colt Gray shot and killed 4 people at his high school in Georgia. I think he shot more than 4 people, but 4 people died. 2 students and 2 teachers. This happened on September 4th. His father, Colin Gray, bought Colt a rifle, apparently while knowing he was psychologically troubled. The FBI questioned Colt and his father, Colin, earlier, but they didn't take any action. And his mother, Marcy, is a criminal who's gotten off lightly in the past, likely because she's a woman. Here's Colt. This is Colt. Here's his mugshot. Now, according to Fox News, the parents were divorced a few years ago, and Colt went to live with his father while other siblings went to live with their mother. And they bounced through a series of rental houses. The Daily Mail, British newspaper, has some pretty extensive coverage about what appears to be the background for this family. Quote, public records show that Gray's mother, Marcy Gray, has a criminal record dating back to 2007 and spent time in jail as recently as this past April, and was banned from contacting father Colin without a third-party intermediary. Marcy, 43, has a record across 4 Georgia counties and includes drug use, domestic violence, and property damage, as well as civil claims of fraud. Now, here is what Marcy would like you to believe that she looks like. Highly filtered. By the way, do you see the crazy eyes? Yeah. Here is what Marcy actually looks like. I mean, no mugshot is flattering, but do admit. I'll read to you a little more from the story. Public records show that Gray's mother, Marcy Gray, has a criminal record dating back to... Yeah, we did that. Sorry, I already read that one to you. Let's go to the quote. She was arrested on November 6, 2023, on allegations of possession of methamphetamine, fentanyl, and muscle relaxants, but was never charged on the drugs, only the vehicle fraud. We'll get to that. She got the woman sentence, too. In December 2023, she was charged with using fake license plates to conceal the identity of the car she was driving. Then she was sentenced to 5 years in jail and banned from contacting her ex-husband. But then she got the ladies' discount. Quote, Gray only had to spend 46 days in confinement before getting the rest on probation, while also having to take part in a family violence intervention program and not use drugs or alcohol. Then this April, she was charged with aggravated battery and kidnapping for duct taping, a 73-year-old woman to a wall, throwing her against the wall, and then stealing from the elderly lady. Oh, and also for failing to appear in court on that charge. because they couldn't keep her in jail. She's a lady, right? I mean, of course they had to let her out. Of course she would come back on her own recognizance. Quote, the most she was ever punished was 12 months probation and 40 hours of community service. Marcy Gray is also accused of $19,000 in check fraud for writing a bad check to a car dealership and putting her husband's name on it. Her criminal record and the allegations against her just go on and on like this. So, what do people who lived around the family recently have to say about this? From the Daily Mail, Lauren Vickers, a neighbor, told the New York Post that the family had been trouble ever since moving into the neighborhood in 2022, and the kids were clearly not being taken care of. Quote, there were nights where the mom would lock him and his sister out of the house, and they would be banging on the back door, just screaming like, "Mom, Mom, Mom," and crying. It was absolutely devastating, said their neighbor. Quote, she added that Marcy was often clearly intoxicated even when driving her children to school. I would find her in the driveway passed out with the car running and blaring music early in the morning, Vickers added. And here's scumbag dad, Colin Gray. Back to the story. The arrest came after sources claimed that the father of three bought his 14-year-old son the assault rifle used in the shooting as a Christmas gift in 2023. This was just months after the teenager and his father were interviewed by local law enforcement in connection with online threats about carrying out a school shooting made on the gaming social media platform Discord, according to investigators. Okay. Now, we don't know all the details. This is just one story. But you know what's interesting about this? Tabloids like the Daily Mail, we all know that they're sensational. They always go for blood and gore stories. They will print almost any celebrity gossip, so there's no telling how accurate that sort of stuff is. But when it comes to criminality and violence, I have found over the years that tabloid papers, at least to my eye, seem to do a better job of proportionally covering the violence that goes on, especially in domestic situations, than mainstream media does. Every once in a while, you'll get a big story in mainstream media about wife battering or domestic violence or problems at home. It's usually in the context of some sort of investigative story, or some nonprofit organization is having a fund drive to raise awareness about a thing. But you see this much more commonly in tabloids like the Daily Mail. And I have worried from time to time that I actually think that the frequency with which these stories show up in the tabloids is probably closer to the frequency with which this happens in real life than what we see in NPR or the New York Times or Forbes or The Guardian, for example. But no way to know for sure. So I can't know how accurate any of these things are, although a lot of this, according to the Mail, was taken from arrest warrants and court records, and they appear to have actually talked to some real people. But I don't know, I was going to say I was going to be interested in watching how this plays out as this case goes on. And I'm not, I talked to my sister about this on the way into the studio this morning, about this kid and the family and what our family was like and why we didn't end up being this way. And neither of us really know either. But I'm not, this is a place to repeat one of my mantras, which is that explanations are not excuses. I think we can get closer to knowing what motivates somebody, what the antecedent factors are, but that doesn't morally excuse violent actions or murder, obviously. But if this is what this kid's home life was like, well, he didn't have much of a chance. And I know, I mean, you could say of my brother and sister and me that we didn't have much of a chance. We had some chances. There were some good things that happened at home. There were some things that our mother taught us. And we were lucky in knowing some other adults, but there were a lot of things working against us too. I don't know what separates a school shooter from kids like me and my family. All right. It is coming up on a break, which means it's time to promote my favorite delicious cured meat, Anton's Biltong. South African beef jerky, if you will, vinegar and spice cured, healthy meat protein, healthy animal fat, and you can even get kangaroo. You know what, Anton, if you're listening to this, you should do a special commemorative ray gun kangaroo biltong offering. Email me. It's wonderful stuff, and Anton's family also runs a European import grocery store. Go to landofbiltong.com and get free shipping by using promo code JOSH. Also, of course, do you need somebody to talk to? I was waiting for the meat to go off the screen. Check me out at joshuaslocum.net. I offer 1-hour coaching and consulting sessions, mainly on family, friendship problems, narcissism, narcissistic abuse. I also do funeral planning. I also like to sit around and shoot the shit with people who want to talk to somebody who can see what's going on in the world, and you'll get that with me. Disaffected supporters who subscribe monthly get a nice discount too. So again, check out joshuaslocum.net. And we'll see you after the break.
Disaffected is now streaming on X. Come with us each Sunday and dare to notice reality. You can find us on X at DisaffectedPod.
You know, we're at the point where the very concepts mentally unstable and literally disconnected from reality / insane have pretty much been rendered non-existent. Culturally, we no longer recognize the phenomenon insane. It's easy to see this. We have to beg, plead, try to persuade lefties that a person who pretends to be the opposite sex is mentally unstable. We have to beg them to see this. Think about that. That behavior, pretending that you are the opposite sex and requiring other people to pretend along with you, that's a definitive dictionary level example of mental instability. Yet now it's just not. It's just not. Imagine if you had to argue with someone to establish the reality that third-degree burns were a thing that happened in the real world. Imagine a person who doesn't believe in third-degree burns, says he doesn't, saw another person put his hand directly on a red-hot skillet and burn himself so badly that the skin came off and he lost functionality in his hand. You would have to beg that onlooker who just saw that happen. You'd have to beg him to see the phenomenon skin burned off hand and lost functionality as a negative thing. You would have to persuade him that it happened and that it was a negative thing. And that it was an example of the reality of third-degree burns. I'm not exaggerating. This is literally where we're at. It's that bad. Have you ever... I think about this a lot, but it's really hard to explain. I'm trying to explain it here, but in trying to communicate with people in 2024 about... It's almost as bad as having to convince them that gravity is real. I don't know how to do it. In my life... Never, before our current era, I have never encountered a breakdown of communication that went this deep. I'm starting to wonder Do people understand what nouns are? Do they know what verbs are? Do they recognize basic concepts that are hardwired in human mentation, or am I going to have to try to find a way to get underneath those and pry them out? I mean, it's maddening, but it's baffling. This is where we are literally, not metaphorically. Not metaphorically, we are literally here. Mind control and reprogramming reality, these efforts work because most people are decent, reasonable people morally. By and large, most people. Now, that's a problem when the people doing the manipulating are abnormal. They're personality disordered, they're extremely narcissistic, they act in Machiavellian ways. Normal, reasonably moral people are very naive. They don't truly believe that evil people or bad people exist. They don't really believe that bad intentions exist and motivate people. Instead, they think, well, everyone's really good deep down. Because you're supposed to believe that. You're a bad person if you don't express that thought. Right? You all recognize that. This creates a bias towards system justification. The normies do the work of narcissists by rationalizing their Machiavellian behavior within the "they must be doing it in good faith" framework. I'll give you a simple example. Think about how it's become new normal recently, few years, new normal, that when you go into a restaurant and ask for a sandwich or a salad or whatever it is, they no longer ask you what meat you would like in your dish or your sandwich. They ask you what protein you'd like. Yeah, I know. Some of you are getting ready. I know you are. Nah, it's just because I know. It's never because of the thing I say. I'm just a crazy, paranoid old man. Have you noticed that, though? Especially if you live in a blue area? The linguistic change was overnight, maybe in about 6 months. Protein. What protein would you like? And for your protein? If this hasn't happened to you where you live, I'm glad. But it has happened to me where I live. Now, so as you contemplate that, recall to your mind that there is a cultural campaign to make meat eating a morally bad thing. You have to have this in your mind in order to go with me here. So bring that into your mind. It's morally bad. It's bad for the climate. It's bad for the Mother Earth to eat meat, et cetera, et cetera. Recall that you know that the World Economic Forum has been very explicit about this. So you've seen their ads that soften you up to eat insects. They filmed one, whether it was the WEF or one of the other big world organizations. They filmed actress Nicole Kidman tucking into some delicious insects in a designer gown. So now that you have that in your short-term recall, come along with me. When I write about this, when I say this on social media, I've posted about it a couple of times, I get some responses back from these good, normal, fairly morally decent people. And they engage in system justification on behalf of the bug-pushing narcissist. They don't mean to do it, but that is what they're doing. And how do they do it? Well, they give responses like this, common one. It's really only to be accurate because restaurants serve proteins other than meat like tofu. Or they'll say, oh, but there are options like fish and that's not meat. So they're just trying to be easily understood by everybody. Well, okay. I don't think that every restaurant worker, every frontliner at Chipotle is specifically trying to accomplish the World Economic Forum agenda. That is not what I am proposing. Okay. I don't think it's one hive mind with an implanted thought to carry out the conspiracy. But these justifications would make more sense if we weren't living among the bug pushers, but we are living among the bug pushers. We are living among the radical leftist vegans who want to not just make that choice for themselves. They want to either force other people to be vegan with them, or they would like incentives and nudges that make it less convenient to eat meat. They do. They tell you. It would make sense if we weren't subjected to a campaign to make meat eating seem like something that, well, who eats meat? Well, males, disgusting males do. And male is right wing, and right wing is bad, and it's toxically masculine. But we do live in that world. That's the world we're living in right now. And that's what's propelling the new normal, I think, at base, to ask you for your protein, like it asks you for your pronouns. If we lived in a normal, sane world, this phenomenon wouldn't even be happening. And, you know, the reason I get so didactic about this stuff, and I lead listeners and viewers and readers by the hand, step by step, and I say things like, remember that you know this, and then remember that you know this. It's because I think I have to. I think that plotting and tedious looking at every single individual piece and reminding is necessary. I have to remind myself, I have to remind people I'm talking to keep these things in mind, because the wider world, the bigger discourse in the world, is deliberately trying to disconnect patterns and concepts in our mind. That's one of the premises of this show. We see it every week, right? The stuff I talk about is really happening out there. Now, I've got some examples from different phenomena this week showing the signs of civilizational decline. This one jumped out at me. This is a mutual follower on X called Redhead Ranting. She says, I know you all think I'm this tough bitch, but tonight I was knocked down a peg or two. I was driving on Hiawatha Avenue near 35th in Minneapolis during rush hour. I'll read you the rest. A car with at least 8 kids in it came up behind me and swerved in and out of traffic, almost tipping over. For the speed they were going and the turn that they were trying to maneuver at such a high speed. They cut in front of me and made a left on the road, barely missing oncoming traffic with school buses and other vehicles. They made the turn without capsizing and sped off. I was stopped at the light and a police car pulled up next to me. I motioned toward the kids and he rolled the window down, so I did too. I said, it's a stolen car, 11 to 13. Oh no, this is what the policeman said. It's a stolen car with 11 to 13-year-olds. I can't go after them. Redhead says, I already knew all of this and apologized for all the shitty treatment I knew this cop had received for trying to do his job. He said, I'd love to arrest them before they hurt themselves or someone else, but they won't stop. They'll put others in danger, and if someone gets hurt or worse, I'll be the one who goes to jail, while they'll be out there to do it all over again before the day is over. I thanked him again for his service, apologized some more, and then the light turned green. I got about half a block before breaking into very unexpected tears. I hate what Democrats have done to the Twin Cities. They don't care at all about the residents or even the criminals, for that matter. They certainly don't care about these kids. Now, here's another example. We all know that all media and technology companies and almost every politician, they're all lying to us all the time about everything. Okay, for the correctors, because I know there's going to be one or two, including among my friends, what I just did was called rhetorical hyperbole. Yeah, it's a deliberate exaggeration, because it's not actually every single tech company and politician. Even though I said it was, I didn't really mean it. It's just most of them. The robots are lying to us too, because of course the robots are programmed by the humans who lie to us. I saw this tweet. Kevin will put the picture up here. From Benny Johnson that says, this is insane. Can more people replicate this? And the this that he is referring to is the video. This is a young woman who is demonstrating to us what happened when she asked Alexa, Amazon's digital assistant, a question.
Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot provide content that promotes a specific political party or a specific candidate.
Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
While there are many reasons to vote for Kamala Harris, the most significant may be that she is a strong candidate with a proven track record of accomplishment. As the first female vice president, Harris has already broken down a major gender barrier, and her career in politics has been characterized by a commitment to progressive ideals and a focus on helping disenfranchised communities.
There's something so perfect about that. It's weird. That robotic voice. Do you remember the robot voices from? Oh God, you started hearing robot voice. I think in the early '70s. It probably came along with a Moog synthesizer. But the robot voices were always like this. That's the correct robot voice. No robot should ever be allowed to speak except in this way. But now, I mean, the Alexa voice you just heard is miles better than that stuff from 40, 50 years ago. But it's still awkward. I just love it. By the way, Amazon admitted to this problem. I saw it in news coverage. But they said it was a mistake, and they're very grateful that was brought to their attention, so they could remedy it. Isn't it funny how mistakes only work in one direction? All right. Let's go out on the street and see how emboldened the transvestites are in helping to decline our civilization. Oh, yeah, so this is from End Wokeness. That's a great account, by the way. Trump supporter attacked by a masked man in a dress, not very ladylike. No, it wasn't. Let's take a look at this man-on-man street action.
You love Trump?
What?
You love Trump?
Yeah, why? Stay away from me. Stay away from me.
Piece of shit.
Fucking weirdo.
Rape! Get the fuck! Get away from me! I'm gonna beat you with this battery!
What?
Get away!
Look at that fat, ugly fuck.
Ah! Stop attacking me! Fucking weirdo! Stop attacking me! Fucking weirdo! Ow! Why are you doing that? Fucking creep! You freak! Karma got you good, you freak! They started attacking me! Rapist! Karma got you good, pussy!
Ooh. This is normal now. Walking around on the street, being an obvious man wearing lady goth clothes is normal. Yelling at other people on the street and asking them if they support a particular presidential candidate is normal. And then running to physically assault them and hit them is normal now. Don't tell me it isn't normal. Yes, it is. Look at it. He felt entirely comfortable doing this in broad daylight, in a world where everyone has cell phones and he knows that he will be recorded both on cell phones and on all the CCTV cameras at the local businesses. He knows this. He's still not afraid. Why isn't he afraid? Because he's right to be confident. He won't be charged. He won't be stopped. People on the street won't even intervene and stop anymore because they know the cops won't arrest someone like this. So why should they risk themselves? Welcome to new normal. This is where we live now. My online friend Deb Philman. You should check out her podcast. I've been on it before. It's all about education. It's called The Reason We Learn. Deb Philman, The Reason We Learn. Worth your time. She put this up. She said, if there's a type of person who makes me reconsider the non-aggression principle, it's the Gestapo schoolmarm. As one commentator describes her, she could run a death camp with the same bubbly condescension and giggly joy. Then again, I think I could make a solid case for her entire being constituting probable cause to justify aggressive action for self-defense. Yes, Deb. First of all, I'm going to vote to acquit because it's you and because it's her. I'm sorry for the poor quality of this video, but take a listen to this young woman who makes videos of herself. I don't know what she's doing. I think thinks she's teaching other adults civic engagement or something.
America, if you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. Do you know why I am here today, my friends? Lollapalooza? No, but that's a very good guess. That was very disappointing. I'm actually here because those of you who are unvaccinated, you are not welcome to play with the vaccinated friends anymore. I know. And you know why that is? Because they don't want to die. That's right. They do not want to die. So here's what we're going to do. When you get a vaccine, you're going to get a really cool card. And you can laminate it. If you want. And you're going to show it to private businesses and hospitals and schools to get inside. Does that sound good? No, are you having some big feelings right now? That's okay, friends. I'll give you 2 minutes, okay? And then I'll check back. Thank you, Miss Saki.
You are not allowed to play with the unvaccinated friends anymore. I know. You get a really cool card. Are you having some big feelings right now? Fuck off, twat. I swear to God. All right. It is. Is it time for another break? It is, but it's also time to ask for your help. Do you like what you get on the show? We'd love to have your support. You want to make a one-time donation, any amount you want. $1, $100. Simply go to disaffected.com and click on support us. And if you would like to contribute on a monthly basis, we would love to have your subscription. There's 2 ways to do it. Visit our Substack. Go to disaffectedpod.substack.com or go to subscribestar.com/disaffected. We will be back after the break, and part of that after the break is going to be something funny. See you then.
Disaffected is now streaming on X. Come with us each Sunday and dare to notice reality. You can find us on X at DisaffectedPod.
Last week we told you about how New England cities are starting to go back to recommending lockdowns. For what? Eastern equine encephalitis, or EEE. You know, the disease that there are 11 cases of in the entire United States on an average year that kills 3 to 4 people out of a population of officially 330 million people. Naturally, Vermont is at the forefront. Vermont is so far gone that I don't have any hope for this place anymore in the short term or in the medium term foreseeable future. If this state is going to turn around, it's going to be a while. Burlington, city of Burlington. Well, let me just tell you what they did. Quote, this year's Oktoberfest Vermont, which was scheduled for Friday, September 20th and Saturday the 21st, has been canceled as health department officials recommend that people in parts of the state avoid being outdoors after dusk due to the risk of Eastern equine encephalitis. That's a report from WPTZ. I'll read you from the story. Max Orleans, one of the organizers, said that between the state's warning and the recommendation they received from the city of Burlington, that's interesting, they didn't feel it made sense to proceed. Quote, "It's really a bummer," Orleans said. "It's not something you're expecting when you hear about these mosquitoes, but it felt like the right move for us." End quote. Orleans said they brainstormed alternative solutions like holding the event during the day before the 6 p.m. warning kicked in. However, he said the financial risk wasn't worth it. It costs more than $135,000 to host an event at the waterfront. Orleans believes they would have ended up losing money. Quote, "It's less to do with making a statement on the whole thing and more to do with taking that risk on the waterfront," Orleans said. This is the government deliberately tanking small businesses again, just like they did with COVID. And all the way at the bottom of this article about how it's dangerous, so dangerous we had to cancel Oktoberfest entirely, all the way down at the bottom of the article is this little sentence. Quote, "Most people infected with Triple E do not develop symptoms, but those who do may experience a flu-like illness with fever, chills, body aches, and joint pain." Just an afterthought. Didn't matter. Certainly not big enough to have mentioned anywhere earlier in the story. All right. Guess what it's time for? That's right, it is time for Potpourri du Moquerie, the portion of the show where we roast the skin off everyone. Allons-y! I don't know if this is real. It's probably not. But who can tell these days? Avoid using anti-wetland language. So we have this graphic here of the wrong way and the right way to honor the swamp. So, wrong way. Wrong kind of language is, you're getting bogged down in details. Instead of that, say this, you're frolicking in nutrient-dense mud. Instead of saying, let's not muck about, say this, let's not disturb the marshland. Instead of saying, they're dragging my name through the mud, say, I'm journeying through soggy terrain. Sounds like something you need a sanitary napkin for. And finally, instead of saying, I'm swamped, say, I'm immersed in nature. Remember to always use swamp first language. Now, the uncuckening of the United States continues apace. Twitter user Ricky Davila is not going to let you steal his joy. That's what he said. Audio listeners, you should duck over and take a look here. It's one of those cartoon images, allegedly, of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I'm only surprised, actually, that they have facial features, because in most cartoon depictions these days, humans don't have facial features. But they're running along like what do you call these people? Like, they're like retarded woodland creatures or something. And it says, joy. Now, speaking of Cam, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Aunt Kamima.
Let's just get through the next 64 days.
Lousy, I'm in town, Henry. I immediately thought, of course, of this girl.
How about that? Huh? Catch me outside. How about that?
Catch you outside?
Catch you outside? Yeah, how about that? Kamala's as black as this girl is. She did it better. All right. You know that term, code switching, which NPR people like to say, black people on NPR particularly say they have to do to get along in a white world? It's just a fancy name for being vocally manipulative. Now, there's all of us speak somewhat differently in different contexts. I am going to take a certain tone of voice if I'm giving a public presentation that's serious. I'm going to take a different tone of voice and 15 vocal affectations when I'm doing a show. I'm going to speak differently when I'm doing a consult with people. This is normal. We all adjust our affect and demeanor to some degree to fit the situation we're in. But there is a line, and when you cross that line, it begins to look, well, inauthentic. And we've got 2 examples of Kamala Harris on the campaign trail this week saying almost exactly the same script. But you'll notice that there's something different depending on which city she's in. So the first one here is Kamala delivering this in a southern city.
For the 5-day work week, you better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
You better shut your stupid mouth. You better shut your stupid mouth. Now that you've gotten that in your head, listen to her deliver the same script in Detroit, a northern city. I think it's Detroit.
For sick leave, thank unions for paid family leave. Thank unions for your vacation time.
I call this speaking in KamelTone. Kevin, can we have the next graphic, please? Yeah, this has been the longest open casket viewing in history. When is he not at the beach for calling hours? And when he finally reanimated, I don't think they actually gave him the good formula. Here is Joe Biden attempting to speak and be alive again.
Long to be the manufacturing capital of the world. Where the hell is that written? We are the greatest manufacturing city, county in the world, state in the world, city in the world. We're going to remain that way. Eric Dean of the Iron Workers, Tim Driscoll of Bricklayers, April Bell of the SEIU, Lee Saunders of AFSCME, and a great friend. Where are you? And Jimmy Williams of the Painters Allied Trades and his dad. His dad is a really good man. Mike Coleman, a sheet metal worker. We also got some.
Okay. I did the best I could, but I believe the translation is Arsham Bangoyo Toothkai. That's it. I got it. Well, that brings us to the end of our show, but there's one other, sorry, just a little bit of housekeeping, super boring thing I have to share with you. We've got merchandise. Show them, Kevin. So if you want to support our show, you can buy hoodies, you can buy t-shirts. Not pictured is our Not Nina tote bag. We do have a canvas tote as well. Just go buy our stuff because we need money, okay? And tell us how you like it. How can you get our merchandise? Very simply, go to disaffected.com and then hit merch. That's the show. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.